Let's clear up the mystery. What exactly is a tariff? In the simplest terms, a tariff is just a tax that a government places on goods coming into the country from abroad. Imagine a massive cargo ship arriving at a bustling American port, loaded with products from all over the world. Before those goods can hit the shelves, the government steps in and says, "Hold on, you need to pay a fee to bring those items in." That fee is the tariff. Think of it as a cover charge for foreign products entering the country. A bit like paying extra to get into an exclusive club, except the club is the entire US market. Every time a foreign product crosses the border, it gets hit with this extra cost, which is supposed to make imported goods less attractive compared to products made at home. The main goal? To make imports more expensive so you'll be more likely to buy local instead. When you're at the store, you might notice that imported items cost a bit more than their American-made counterparts. That's often because of tariffs, which are designed to nudge you towards supporting domestic businesses and workers. Governments use tariffs as a shield to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, and as a bargaining chip in international trade negotiations. By making foreign goods pricier, they hope to give local companies a fighting chance and keep jobs at home. Tariffs can also be used as leverage. If another country isn't playing fair, tariffs can be a way to push back. This isn't a new idea. Tariffs have been around for centuries, used by countries all over the world. In America, they were once a cornerstone of economic policy, promising to boost local jobs, build up industries, and punish foreign competitors who tried to flood the market with cheap goods. But here's the catch. While tariffs are supposed to hurt foreign companies, the extra cost usually lands on the shoulders of everyday consumers. When businesses have to pay more to bring in goods, they often pass those costs along to you and me in the form of higher prices at the store. The economy isn't a simple seesaw. Messing with one part can set off a chain reaction that affects everything else. Raise tariffs and you might help one industry, but you could also make life harder for others, or even spark a trade war that hurts everyone. Tariffs might sound like a quick fix for economic problems, but in reality, the money to pay those taxes comes straight from our own pockets. Every time you buy an imported product, you're the one footing the bill for that extra charge. So, while politicians often promise that tariffs will bring prosperity and protect American jobs, the truth is a lot more complicated. The effects ripple through the entire economy, sometimes in ways that are hard to predict or control. And that's where our story begins. A journey into the world of tariffs, trade, and the real impact on our lives and wallets. Enter Donald Trump, self-declared tariff man. In 2018, he launched a trade war, targeting China with tariffs on billions in goods, from washing machines to electronics. The administration claimed China was cheating, stealing tech, forcing companies to hand over secrets, and breaking trade rules. Tariffs were supposed to force China to play fair and protect American jobs. This wasn't a minor tweak. It was a full-blown economic showdown. China fired back with tariffs of their own, targeting American exports and hitting politically sensitive industries. Suddenly, both economies were locked in a high-stakes standoff. Supporters saw Trump as defending American workers. Critics saw chaos brewing. The world watched as the two largest economies played chicken with global trade. What could possibly go wrong? What was the plan? Bring manufacturing jobs back, shrink the trade deficit, and protect national security. The idea: make Chinese goods pricier so companies would move factories home. Trump saw the trade deficit as proof America was losing to China. Tariffs were meant to balance the books and force China to buy more American goods. The administration also wanted to stop China from stealing US technology. In theory, tariffs would pressure China to play by new rules. The vision: a self-reliant America with booming factories and fairer trade. But did the battering ram break down the right wall, or just smash up our own house? That's the question. Trade wars are messy, like throwing a boomerang in a crowded room. Tariffs are paid by American importers, who pass the cost to consumers. Prices on everyday items, appliances, car parts, even baseball caps, crept up. For many families, these increases squeezed already tight budgets. American businesses relying on imported parts faced higher costs, making them less competitive. Some had to raise prices, cut jobs, or risk going under. Meanwhile, China's retaliatory tariffs slammed US farmers, especially in the Midwest. Soybeans, pork, and corn exports plummeted as China turned to other suppliers. The very communities tariffs were meant to help were now feeling the pain. The fallout spread from factories to farms, and the plan was backfiring. Let's get personal. Tariffs and trade wars might sound like distant, complicated issues, something for politicians and economists to debate on TV. But the reality is, these policies have a direct impact on everyday Americans, often in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Take Mid-American Metalworks, a small manufacturer in the heart of the Midwest. This family-run business has been a staple in its community for decades, providing steady jobs and supporting local families. For years, they relied on a specific industrial valve made in China. It was reliable, affordable, and essential to their production line. But overnight, a new 25% tariff made that crucial part dramatically more expensive. They searched for alternatives, but no American company made a compatible valve. European options were available, but those came with an even steeper price tag, making them unaffordable for a small business already operating on thin margins. With costs rising, Mid-American Metalworks had no choice but to raise their own prices. Suddenly, their products were less competitive, and customers started turning to cheaper, non-tariffed imports from other countries. The very policy designed to protect American manufacturers was now threatening their survival. Layoffs loomed, and the future of the business and the community it supported hung in the balance. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Texas, the Miller family felt the effects in their daily lives. When they went shopping for a new refrigerator, new tires for the car, or even a baby crib, they noticed prices had crept up. Each individual price hike might have seemed small, a few dollars here, a few more there. But when added together, these increases started to chip away at the family's monthly budget, making it harder to save or plan for the future. The hidden cost of tariffs was a slow, steady squeeze on household finances. Bills piled up, and the family found themselves stretching every dollar just to keep up. Plans for a long overdue home renovation were put on hold. The family vacation they'd been looking forward to was canceled. Even small luxuries like dining out or weekend activities became rare treats. For families like the Millers, tariffs weren't just an abstract policy, they were a real, tangible financial burden that made everyday life more stressful and uncertain. They watched the news about trade wars and tariffs but felt powerless. They were paying the price for a conflict they never asked for, with no clear benefit in sight. This is how tariffs hit home, not just in boardrooms or on balance sheets, but in the kitchens, living rooms, and wallets of ordinary Americans across the country. Nowhere did tariffs sting more than on American farms. China was the top buyer of U.S. soybeans, until it slapped a 25% tariff in retaliation. Overnight, Chinese buyers vanished, prices crashed, and farmers were left with unsold crops. Many faced bankruptcy, mounting debt, and deep uncertainty. The government tried to help with bailouts, but farmers wanted markets, not checks. The trade war, meant to protect the heartland, hit it hardest. Farmers became the frontline casualties in a conflict they didn't start. The pain was real, the benefits elusive. China's tariffs were a direct hit, and American farmers paid the price. The heartland was left reeling. So, did tariffs deliver on their promises? The answer, when you look at the numbers and the stories behind them, is not really. The hope was that tariffs would revive American manufacturing, bring back jobs, and level the playing field with China. But the reality turned out to be much more complicated. Manufacturing jobs didn't come roaring back as many had hoped. In fact, the opposite happened in many places. Instead of a manufacturing renaissance, more jobs were lost than gained. Factories that had been struggling before the tariffs found it even harder to survive, and some had to close their doors for good. For every job saved in the steel industry, which was one of the main targets of the tariffs, even more jobs disappeared in industries that rely on steel, like auto parts, construction, and machinery. The higher cost of materials made it tough for these businesses to compete, both at home and abroad. The trade deficit with China did shrink a bit, which at first glance seemed like a win, but if you zoom out, the overall U.S. trade deficit actually grew. The gap between what America imports and exports widened, not narrowed. Companies didn't stop importing goods, they just shifted their supply chains to other countries like Vietnam, Mexico, and Thailand. The scoreboard didn't really change. The numbers just moved around on the map. The trade war was supposed to punish China, but in practice, it mostly rerouted global trade flows. As for China, a Phase 1 deal was signed, bringing some minor concessions and promises to buy more American goods. But there was no real change to China's economic model. The core issues, intellectual property theft, state subsidies, and government intervention in the economy, remained firmly in place. The big problems that started the trade war were left unsolved. Meanwhile, American consumers and small businesses bore the brunt of higher prices. Everyday goods became more expensive, and many small companies struggled to absorb the extra costs. In the end, the trade war was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Except instead of breaking the nut, we ended up smashing our own thumb. The pain was real, but the results were underwhelming. The promised manufacturing boom never materialized, and the core issues with China are still unresolved. The grand promises of tariffs faded away, leaving behind empty factories and a sense of missed opportunity. The trade war's chaos rippled far beyond its targets. Uncertainty made businesses freeze investment. Why build a factory if tariffs might change tomorrow? Growth slowed, innovation stalled, and job creation suffered. Tariffs also hit America's allies, Canada, Mexico, the EU, straining relationships. Allies retaliated, targeting iconic U.S. products. Instead of uniting against China, the U.S. fought on multiple fronts. Trust eroded, and America's reputation as a reliable partner took a hit. The global trading system weakened, and protectionism spread. Tariffs cost more than money. They cost diplomatic capital and global influence. What's the lesson from America's tariff experiment? There are no easy fixes for complex economic problems. Tariffs are a blunt tool. They tax your own people, hurt your own industries, and invite painful retaliation. The promised jobs and prosperity didn't appear. Instead, we got higher prices and lost markets. Trade wars create winners and losers by political decree, not by innovation or efficiency. That's a recipe for stagnation, not growth. The real path forward? Smart negotiations, working with allies, and investing in American workers. Protectionism sounds tough, but it often backfires. The tariff saga is a cautionary tale. Slogans aren't solutions. Fixing trade takes strategy, not sledgehammers. In the end, building walls just traps us inside.